the deck I had is the Revenant Recon Precon, and the face commander is Mirko Obsessive Theorist. He is 1 and then blue and black, which is Dimir. Flying, Vigilance, Legendary Creature, Vampire Detective, 1/3. Whenever you surveil, put a +1/+1 counter on Mirko. At the beginning of your end step, you may return target creature card with power less than Mirko's from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. So just looking at him, I know that we're going to try to surveil as much as possible. And also, we want to put tons of creatures in our graveyard if possible. The other commanders that you can use out of the box here are Marvo Deep Operative, which is a legendary creature octopus rogue. I'm trying to see his mana cost. 3 blue black, and then he's a 1/8, which is crazy. When Marvo Deep Operative attacks, clash with defending player, which this is a mechanic I think I've never seen before. But apparently it's old. So I'm gonna read Clash. Each clashing player reveals the top card of their library, then puts that card on the top or the bottom. A player wins if their card had a higher mana value. I'll read the rest of this card, and then I'm going to ask you guys a question, because I'm confused. So whenever you win a clash, draw a card. Then you may cast a spell from your hand with mana value 8 or less without paying its mana cost. So my question is this card absolutely horrible or not?
Oh, I'm obsessed with it. Are you kidding me?
I think it's fine.
I think it's cool because you're in a surveil deck already, so you're already manipulating the top of your library.
Fair
and
enough.
You can play something like, hey, you know what costs 8 mana? Treasure Cruise. You can just flip a Treasure Cruise. You're probably going to win the clash, and then you draw it and play it for free.
That's fair. That said, there are quite a lot of big things in this deck, so this will work. And also, every single card in this deck is 8 mana or less, except for I think it was like maybe two cards that were 9 CMC. Yeah, there's 2 spells in here that are 9 CMC, so it can literally do anything.
Yeah, you also don't have to play the card that you've won the clash with. So like, you can hold something in your hand. You can just choose to go like, sweet, I won this clash. I'm gonna draw and then play Ponder or whatever.
So before I talk any more about Marvo, Lazov the Multifarious, he's not a new card, but he is the other card that could be a commander here. And I'll just read him. He's blue-black. Legendary creature shapeshifter 1/3. When Lazov the Multifarious enters the battlefield, you surveil 1, so you immediately get to surveil, which is good. And then pay X, Lazov Multifarious becomes a copy of target creature in your graveyard with mana value X, except its name is Lazov. And it's a legendary creature. Blah, blah, blah. Keeps his ability. So I like that Lazov is actually a good include in this deck. He's not just like a random other legendary creature. Marvo, I'm still not sold, and I'll talk about that why later when I get to upgrade paths and stuff, because I personally think Marvo is a cool card. I think it would be way better, though, if you just built around it.
Yeah, and take it out and build a different deck around it.
Because this doesn't feel like it fits anything. Like this is the only card in the deck that has Clash at all. Like it doesn't
That's because there's like 4 cards in the game that have Clash.
Yeah, it just doesn't. I don't know. I don't think potentially getting value off of something is a good enough reason to like keep it in. You should just put a card in that does give you value.
That's spoken as a man who's never been to Vegas.
I don't gamble like that. You know what I'm saying?
In them octopus slots, you know what I'm saying?
Well, anyway, that was so sick. Let's see. Let me go to my new cards. So my favorite new cards in this are, I think, Eye of the Dusk Mantle. It's 5 black for an eye creature with flying and lifelink. It's a 3/8. It says you may play lands and cast spells from among cards in your graveyard you surveilled this turn. If you cast a spell this way, you may pay life equal to its mana value instead of its mana cost. That's awesome. You can just cheat something in for 0 mana and then keep going, which is insane. Especially because you're going to be surveilling more than once by the time you have 7 mana to play a creature like this with. So that's a really cool card. Let's see here. To be honest, I wasn't super stoked about most of the new cards in this one, but I think the other one I'll talk about is Case of the Shifting Visage. I don't know how to say that word. Visage. Visage, I think is what it is. So 1 blue for a enchantment case. At the beginning of your upkeep, you surveil 1. So that's already really good. You want to be surveilling as much as you can. Also, as a caveat, I'll say this. Even though Lazav would be totally fine to build around, I am thinking about this card with Mirko as the commander of it. Or you guys know what I'm trying to say. This deck, Mirko at the head. So Case of the Shifting Visage is good. So the first step of that card is at the beginning of your upkeep, your surveil 1, and then the next section is to solve. There are 15 or more cards in your graveyard. Not too hard to do with surveil, especially if you're doing it like more than once a turn. And then solved is whenever you cast a non-legendary creature spell, you copy it, which is never bad. That's every single time. That's not once a turn. That's crazy.
There's no more text on that. It's just you copy it.
Yeah, you just copy it.
This is so sick.
Yeah, it's amazing. 3 mana total for this, but yeah, it's pretty nuts. As far as new cards, I think that's everything else. To be honest, I would cut most of the other new cards from this deck, even though they were made specifically for it. They're not good, so they got to go.
I brought my boy Marvo like that.
Marvo is cool. He's not good here. Let's get into the reprints, or the ones that I like the most. Most of them were all the reanimator packages, and this deck has an insane reanimation package. If you're trying to build go ahead.
It's incredible. It's the reanimation that is available just out of precons nowadays is better than the ones that you can find in like Masters products.
Which is why they should have put Taunt for the Ramparts in the other deck, because they were like, let's put every good reanimation spell in this precon, but we're going to leave the best goad spell out of the goad deck. Anyway, I don't understand it, but whatever. So I'll just read them off quickly. These cards have been around a while. Reanimate, Rise of the Dark Realms, Necromancy, Animate Dead, Doom Whisperer, and then Phyrexian Metamorph. That's not a reanimation thing, but that is an expensive card, and I'm glad it got reprinted. So as far as reprints go, those are great. And I think I did the math on that. That's like around $35 worth of reprint value in just those cards, which is kind of bonkers. So
the most
$40 deck.
Yeah, the most notable of all of those is definitely Necromancy. Its first reprint ever.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. Yeah,
ever.
Really, really crazy. So I kind of deep dived on this deck to make 2 different upgrade paths. I made one that is just like, do you want to make this deck actually great and super playable and more consistent? And I'm just going to read those cards off to you after I read the cards that you should cut to make room for them. I'm going to go fast because there's 10 for each of these categories. Cutting 10, adding 10. So
the boy did his research this time.
I did. I friggin' did not pull my punches. So Anthem Mutineer. It's a 3 and a blue for a 3/3 Salamander Pirate. When it enters the battlefield, you can exile a non-Salamander creature, and then that creature's controller makes a 4/3 Salamander Warrior token instead. It has Encore for 4/2 blue. This is fine. Most creatures aren't Salamanders, but it's 4 mana to do this, and they still get a 4/3. That's a big creature you're giving them. That is notably bigger than the Beast Within, any of the Generous Gift type things. Like a 4/3, I don't want to give my opponents 4/3s. That is too much.
To play devil's advocate, there is sometimes that a 4/3, if there is an option, there is a 4/3 instead of like
an Avacyn
or something. Like
that is true. That's true.
There is times, and the fact that it has Encore, meaning it can come back, have 3 triggers, like
obviously it does synergize it does synergize with the commander because finality counter, get it back. I understand that, but I still think it's not great to be doing that. Like, you're giving them a 4/3 every single time. There's plenty of other cards in this list that already like enter the battlefield and destroy thing or get rid of a thing somehow. So you don't need to like do that and also give your opponents value at the same time when you have plenty of other ways to not be doing that. So the next card that I think you should cut, or I would cut if I was doing this, is the Twilight Prophet. And that is 2 black for a flying 2/4 with Ascend, which is really irrelevant here. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is that card's mana value. This would be way better in a if you were to build what is his name? Marvo. If you built Marvo, this would be better with that. But here it's just kind of like really random. And I don't really love that randomness, even though it's like the way I was thinking about upgrading, like you have to think like actually better. It's like I don't want just random one-off effects that are maybe going to give me incremental value. I want the deck to get better as a whole. And so that's where you start cutting things like Twilight Prophet. So Sphinx the Second Sun is 6 and 2 blue for a flying 6/6 Sphinx. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, there's an additional beginning phase after this phase. That's incredible, but it's 8 mana for a flying 6/6 with no protection that will be getting removed as fast as possible because your opponents can't let you keep this. So I don't know. It just doesn't super synergize with anything else in the deck. For 8 mana, I kind of want more than this.
Yeah, to me, it feels like it's in there as a reanimation target, and there's just way better reanimator targets.
Exactly. That's it. For 8 mana, no thanks. I'm never casting that.
No, you're reanimating.
It has to go in my graveyard first. It's too many steps for a card that's like going to give me some value. Copy Catchers. I think this card is fine with Surveil. Every time you Surveil, you can pay 1 in a blue to make a copy of this card. But that's all it does. And you don't need Copy Catchers. You need to be able to Surveil more. And this doesn't help you do that. And we've already talked about Marvo. That was my next one. And then Counterpoint. It's 3 blue and a black for a way too expensive counter spell that lets you cast something that's cheaper than 5 CMC from your graveyard. That should just be a Fierce Guardianship or anything else. That is a terrible card. Don't play that. The rest of the cuts are Grave Titan, because there's a weird like sort of pseudo zombie spawning mechanic in this deck. But again, precons are guilty of having their hands in too many. What is the saying? Like too many. I don't know. It's trying to do too many things. It doesn't need like two zombies also happening, and that's pretty much all Grave Titan's doing. Twilight Prophet, we already talked about. Vizier of Many Faces, and then Overseer of the Damned. Those are the rest of the cuts. Now into the upgrade paths. This first one I'm going to breeze through because these are all staples that we should all know about. Rhystic Study should obviously be in here. That's no question. Opposition Agent, Notion Thief. Those should obviously go in if you want this deck to just become a lot better. Cyclonic Rift, Fierce Guardianship, Feed the Swarm, Displacer Kitten is amazing anywhere it goes. That card just rules. There are.
God damn, you made a money, Jared? What are you talking about, dude?
Well, that's why I made two upgrade paths. This is the one that is like, this is gas. This is great. This will make this deck better. Bolus's Citadel, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, and then the One Ring. Insane. Way better. Super expensive though. I don't know the total of those cards combined, but that's a lot. So let's get in.
It's the point a little bit.
No, we'll get there.
If you show up to a table and you say you're playing an upgraded precon and you have fucking Rhystic Study, the One Ring, Opposition Agent getting in there, I'm gonna kick your ass, dude.
That's fair.
We're upgrading the precon deck. What the fuck are you talking about?
I think something to keep in mind is this is 10 cards, so it's like it is
There's hundreds of dollars that you're telling the average person to upgrade their precon with.
Well, these are just great cards that you could put in. But here's the other list, because these are the ones that are more flavorful, more catered to the deck specifically, but are still really good. So we have up first, we have Victimize. So that's 2 and a black for.
Is it?
Is it? Am I dumb? Hold on. Looking. It's not. But yeah, so this deck really wants to victimize. It's perfect for reanimation stuff. So 2 and a black for sorcery that says choose 2 creatures in your graveyard, sack a creature you have, return the 2 creatures tapped to the battlefield. So this is perfect. It should have just been in here, but anyway, you should add it. The next one, we have Search for Escanta. It's 1 in a blue, and it makes you surveil at your upkeep every time. They had to errata that card. It's an old card. So
that actually is one that really benefits from the functional errata because of the face commander, whose name I can't remember, getting a +1/+1 counter every time you surveil.
Exactly, yes. So this is perfect. Even though some of the copies of this card don't say surveil, it does surveil. The other side doesn't super matter. Anyway.
Well, it can flip and find you reanimator spells.
That is true. That is true. But would you rather
it's actually
surveil?
A slam dunk in here.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, this card's great. Either way you want to play it. I mean, it's good if you just leave it on its first side because like you still get to just surveil every single time. Thrall Parasite and Hex Parasite. They're both, so Thrall Parasite is 1 black and Hex Parasite is a colorless mana. They both give you ways to take off finality counters. So you can keep going and not exiling your stuff. Because that's why, that's the part of Mirko that is bad. Because if you're trying to surveil, you're trying to reanimate, you're going to keep losing your stuff to the finality counters, which isn't good. So that's how you fix this deck.
Hey, Oracle, real quick. What's the blue-black creature from Amonkhet that you tap it to remove a counter from a permanent you control and draw a card?
Oh, what is that? Maybe I missed that one.
That would be... oh crap! It's Soul something. Soul
Siphoner.
Soul something from War of the Spark.
Yes.
So maybe that one should
instead of clock spinning.
Yeah, replace clock spinning with that one. Even though clock spinning is not horrible, but Hex Parasite and Thrall Parasite are great. They essentially just give you ways to remove the finality counter, so I won't really talk about them more. I have Shieldred Whispering one, because that card's insane. That constantly gets you cards back out of your graveyard and makes your opponents get rid of things. Sack creatures every single turn.
That's so much better than Sphinx of the Second Sun.
Yeah. And
like
it's
you
also
just reanimate that and just start edicting everybody.
It's also only 5 mana. It's no, that one's 7 mana. I was looking at the other Shieldred because that's also on my list. Just Shieldred, that one.
It's so weird to say.
Yeah,
the transform one.
Yeah. So that one has menace, enters the battlefield, makes everyone sack something, a creature or planeswalker that's not you, and then you can transform it. And there's tons of value on the other side. Notably, the last chapter being all the creatures from the graveyard. Every graveyard come onto your battlefield, which is dope. So that's sick, especially with as much reanimation as happening in this deck. You want that. Entomb, everyone knows what that does. That just allows you to send something straight in there and give Mirko a target right away. Because he's only 3 mana. You need to be having targets pretty quickly. Haven Ghoul Lich is a really cool card for 3 blue-black. You can pay 1 to cast a creature card from your graveyard this turn. When you do that, Haven Ghoul Lich also gains all the abilities of that creature for that turn. Pretty sick. Just another way to reanimate things if you don't want to put a finality counter on something. And then the last one I have is Ashiok Dreamrender, because why not? People probably know what this does, but your opponents can't search their library when this planeswalker's on the field. And then
it also mills you and exiles your opponent's libraries.
Yeah, it perfectly synergizes with what your deck wants to do and also gives you some graveyard hate that you want for other people. So that is the more flavorful and probably more fun upgrade path if you're not just trying to play every blue-black staple in the game. But yeah, so I had a lot of fun working through this one. It was cool.
It's a cool deck.
It honestly, so overall thoughts, I think it'll be really fun to play this deck. Out of the box, it seems pretty well put together. There's not a ton of like random stuff in here. And also like even the random zombie stuff is beneficial because there's some sacrificing synergies here and you have tokens to get rid of with the zombies. So overall, I'd give it 4 out of 5 stars, I think. And if I had to compare it to other like Commander Precon power levels, I think it's pretty up there. It's very competitive. So
nice.
I like it.